I am
Yes,
audible?
sir. Clearly, sir. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Anshika, for your kind words. And today we are talking about place of carbos in modern day management of type 2 diabetes. And before that, today is World Health Day. और इस अवसर पे मैं आप सभी को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं कि आप सभी स्वस्थ रहें, प्रसन्न रहें। हम लोग दूसरों की हेल्थ का तो ध्यान रखते हैं पर खुद की हेल्थ कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करते हैं, ये सभी डॉक्टर्स की स्थिति है। एंड टू कीप अदर्स हेल्दी वी शुड कीप आवर सेल्व्स हेल्दी, so that is very important. And specifically these medical pharma company people, they are under very stress because of various targets and various job opportunities. They are under stress and they compromise a lot of their health. So with this few words to keep yourself healthy, we are discussing about alpha glucosidase inhibitor, that is acarbose, which is in this era of DPP4 inhibitors and SGLT2 inhibitors, least discussed, very good molecule in our Indian context and Indian setup, and specifically Asian setup, because we are carbohydrate eaters. Uh, there was a study that was known as the STARS study, in which in all parts of the country more than 60% of the carbohydrates, uh, more than 60% of the total calories were consumed in the form of carbohydrates, and that should be reduced to less than 50%. And we are protein deficient, so that is the scenario of our dietary habits, and where this molecule helps in taking care of glycemic excursion and glucose variability. So with this few words, acarbose now almost completing 25 years. It was first approved in 1997, and till now it has covered huge journey without any excuse me, without any problem, and almost more than 100 countries has approved this molecule for the control of postprandial peaks specifically and glycemic variability. The unique mode of action of acarbose, you can understand that without acarbose, you can see there is a peak, and this is the carbohydrate absorption in the intestine, and most of the carbohydrate absorbed is in the upper small intestine, while with acarbose, uh, more of carbohydrates are going to the large intestine and they are lower part of the intestine, and the peak is blunted, so there is delay in intestinal carbohydrate absorption, lower post meal hypoglycemia, this peak is blunted, less insulin need because of less the acute peak is not there, and because of this there is improvement in the insulin sensitivity, and it also facilitates the gut microbiota or gut symbiosis because of the carbohydrates in the lower part of the intestine. How acarbose is involved in the degradation of disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. We know that complex carbohydrates, most of the time it is starch, which is broken down into the disaccharides, oligosaccharides, and these polysaccharides are converted into disaccharides and then oligosaccharides. And these are the enzymes which are inhibited. Alpha glucosidase, various alpha glucosidases like glucoamylase, sucrase, maltase, isomaltase, and pancreatic amylase and salivary amylase are also inhibited with acarbose, while this action is not available with voglibose, and miglitol is no longer available, which is also alpha glucosidase inhibitor. And what this um, acarbose does, polysaccharides, that is starch, is converted into oligo, disaccharide and glucose, and these red bars are for where this acarbose acts, that is alpha amylase, alpha glucosidase. These enzymes are inhibited, and this is this broken down of starch into the simpler carbohydrates is taken care of, and this that's how the complex carbohydrates reaches the lower part of the intestine and thus helps the symbiosis in the lower intestine. This is the structural configuration of the acarbose. This is a large molecule and has pseudo tetrasaccharide. This is tetrasaccharide, while voclibose is smaller than that and miglitol is further smaller than that. The insulin sparing action is suitable because it blood glucose peak is blunted with this green acarbose as compared to placebo, and serum insulin is also decreased because of this blunted peak. The insulin secretion is also blunted. So what we will talk about: glycemic control with acarbose, metformin and acarbose combination, and benefits beyond glycemic control are GLP-1 response, glycemic variability, gut microbiota, and cardiovascular benefits. These all are very important nowadays, very well discussed, but this molecule somehow is not discussed much in recent past few years. So glycemic control with acarbose, mean change in A1C with acarbose monotherapy, that is 50 milligram 3 times a day, almost 0.8% reduction, and this is the meta-analysis of 28 placebo-controlled randomized trials. So that shows that 0.8% reduction, and this is the study of about 3,000 patients. And fasting as well as postprandial, both blood glucose are decreased, but more so is postprandial as compared to fasting, and naturally because it acts on the carbohydrate absorption. So when you take carbohydrates, that will reduce the peak of carbohydrate absorption and blunts that peak, and that's how it reduces the postprandial blood glucose, and that's how it reduces the A1C also. Then meta-analysis shows more A1C reduction in Asian population compared to Eastern population. This is the systematic meta-analysis of 46 studies, and because we are more of carbohydrate eaters as compared to Western counterpart, which ingest more protein and more fat as compared to carbohydrates. So there is more reduction of A1C with almost up to the tune of 1.54% as compared to 0.5% in Eastern population, and that is because of the dietary composition, and which is very significant. Then these are the real world data from GlucoVIP International real world data, and this is subgroup analysis of Indian subjects in GlucoVIP. 19 near about 2,000 patients among total 15,000 patients were from India, 2,000 Indian patients, and then this acarbose was given 50 milligram 3 times a day, and after 12 weeks you can see there is 74 milligram per deciliter reduction in postprandial glucose and 38 milligram in fasting plasma glucose. So postprandial plasma glucose is reduced much with acarbose monotherapy. Then acarbose compared with metformin as initial therapy in treatment naive patients. So A1C reduction is almost similar. Postprandial glucose reduction is more with acarbose, that is logical also, and fasting plasma glucose reduction is more with metformin, that is again logical because metformin reduces the nocturnal hepatic glucose production as compared to acarbose, that is only 26 milligram. Then comparison of acarbose DPP4 inhibitor and SGLT2 inhibitor, almost A1C reduction shows 0.5 to 9.9% with DPP4 inhibitors 0.4 to 1.3, and SGLT2 shows 0.4 to 1% A1C reduction. And the mechanism of action by this is systemic treatment, SGLT2 inhibitors and DPP4 inhibitors, while acarbose acts locally and it slows down the postprandial glucose absorption or degradation. So almost similar, but here I would like to say that it all depends on the what studies you are taking care of. So acarbose is not very potent drug, but it is very good drug for reducing the glycemic variability and specifically postprandial glycemic excursions. Acarbose, this is stop NIDDM trial almost 25 years when I started my practice, and just after that in 1996 or so this study came out and I spoke on that, and this was the study of near about 1500 patients followed up for 3.3 years, and there was 25% reduction in the new onset conversion of impaired glucose tolerance to diabetes. Means all those patients were taken were of patients of impaired glucose tolerance. Impaired glucose tolerance means impaired fasting glucose, or impaired glucose tolerance means postprandial blood glucose 140 to 200 and fasting plasma glucose 100 to 126. They were taken up and they were followed up for 3 years. And another very important finding was 35% there is reversal. What we are now talking about with the direct trial, 35% patients were converted to non-diabetic status as compared to pre-diabetics. So 25% less conversion into diabetes and 35% more conversion to normal. So it was significant reduction. This was very important study. Now we come to the what is the best combination partner. So acarbose and metformin, if we compare, the metformin takes care of fasting while acarbose takes care of postprandial excursions. Insulin sparing effects are available with both increase GLP-1 concentration. The body weight gain is usually not there, rather there is some reduction or they are neutral. No risk of hypoglycemia. Cardiovascular benefits are there because glycemic variability is very important risk factor for cardiovascular or macrovascular complications, and there are beneficial effects on lipid profile, and gut symbiosis is also there. So this is India phase 3 study adding acarbose to metformin, which improves the A1C reduction. This is the study of more than 200 patients who are receiving either acarbose 50 mg plus metformin 500 mg twice or thrice daily, while another arm is metformin alone, and they were followed up for 12 weeks. And you can see there was with metformin alone 27.8%, almost 60% higher reduction. With acarbose metformin postprandial almost double reduction in the postprandial blood glucose, 48 versus 91.4 with acarbose metformin. And A1C reduction is also 1.06 to 1.76 with metformin alone. It is almost 70% higher with this combination. Then this is the study to compare efficacy of voglibose and acarbose. They were compared, and the number is about 300 patients, voglibose plus metformin, equal number of patients, and A1C reduction was higher with acarbose metformin 0.93%, fasting plasma glucose, postprandial plasma glucose, and weight was also slightly higher, may not be statistically significant, but there is better reduction with acarbose as compared to voglibose. Because of the reasons we have already seen that it suppresses so many enzymes, alpha glucosidases, which are not with voglibose and mithritol. excuse me. Then this is meta-analysis for various anti-diabetic drugs, and they were also taking the metformin, and comparison is on the A1C reduction and hypoglycemic events, and you can see almost similar A1C reduction, but here I would like to say that sulfonylureas are not as low potency as it has been shown here. They are very potent drugs, so A1C reduction is much higher with this molecule and also with insulins. You can see biphasic insulins are the highest A1C lowering agents, while hypoglycemia is minimal with alpha glucosidase inhibitor, while it is almost neutral with glitazones, DPP4 inhibitors, and GLP-1 analogs and SGLT2 inhibitors also. Otherwise, the hypoglycemic events are more with sulfonylurea, meglitinoid analogs, and insulin, because they are very potent drugs and all are hypoglycemic drugs, and hypoglycemic drugs produce more hypoglycemia as compared to anti-hyperglycemic drugs, which does not cause hypoglycemia per se. Then comparison of acarbose with DPP4 inhibitors, SGLT2 inhibitors, and sulfonylurea when added to metformin, and this shows that acarbose is similar in efficacy, and this is meta-analysis of 62 randomized controlled trials carrying about 30,000 patients, and this shows that similar in efficacy. Again, here I differ that sulfonylureas are not are more efficacious as compared to all these molecules, and in addition, when they are used in combination, it may produce more A1C reduction and more hypoglycemia as compared to other combinations. Gliptins are SGLT2 inhibitors and alpha glucosidase inhibitors, and metformin, they are anti-hyperglycemic drugs, means when they are used per se without any hypoglycemic drug like insulin and sulfonylurea and meglitinoid analog, they do not produce hypoglycemia of their own. Then acarbose benefits beyond diabetes control. Now we come to the GLP-1 response, glycemic variability, gut microbiota, and cardiovascular benefits. So this is the normal absorption of the carbohydrates in the gut. You can see jejunum and ileum. This is schematic representation of the carbohydrate absorption. When patient is not taking acarbose, and when patient takes acarbose, there is less of absorption in the upper small intestine and more of absorption in the lower intestine, and there are L cells in the duodenum, and they produce GLP-1, and GLP-1 levels are higher with acarbose as compared to control. After 0 to, if you see 0 to 200 means almost 3.5 hours. Then effect of acarbose on glycemic variability. You can see that this is the brown line is with allogliptin, and green is with allogliptin and acarbose. When acarbose is added, there is almost straight glycemic control. There is no glucose excursion which are occurring without acarbose with allogliptin. Then mean average glucose excursion. This is from the very small study of multi-center randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study of placebo plus metformin plus vildagliptin, and you can see here that mean average glucose excursion were less with acarbose as compared to placebo, and standard deviation, and this is also so glycemia is better controlled, and you can see here, you can understand better in this graph that time in range is increased from almost 60% to 88%, and time above range is just 8% in time below range, that is dark gray, very small line, and that is less than 70 milligram percent. While with metformin, vildagliptin and placebo, it is time in range is almost 70%, and time in range means 70 to 180 milligram percent. All blood glucose lies between the two, and this time increases with acarbose, metformin, vildagliptin to almost 90%. So this is glycemic variability check with acarbose and premix insulins. This is again a very small number of patients, almost equal number, 62 patients in metformin insulin arm and acarbose insulin arm. And you can see that this is green bars are with acarbose. If you see the acarbose market strips, they are also in the green, this same color, and so easy to remember. This is acarbose, and the coefficient of variation is more with acarbose and insulin, and mean average glucose excursion reduction is also more with acarbose and insulin, and standard deviation is also more with, so more less glycemic variability, average glucose excursion is less with acarbose and insulin as compared to metformin plus insulin. Emerging evidence in gut microbiota. Gut microbiota is nowadays getting very popular in the causation of not only obesity but metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and many more. And this is the complex interplay between the genetics, environment, microbiota, and diet, and with various complex interactions, there is result is in the form of obesity, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. So it starts from insulin resistance to obesity to type, and then metabolic syndrome to type 2 diabetes. Then diabetes and gut microbiota dysbiosis. The recent metagenome-wide association study showed that patients with type 2 diabetes have moderate degree of gut microbial dysbiosis. What it means that beneficial microbes in the gut are reduced, and hazardous microbiota increases. So there is decrease in the abundance of some universal butyrate producing bacteria, that is short chain fatty acid, which are helpful to our gut microbes, and increase in various opportunistic pathogens, what I said. And you can see here that with acarbose before and after, this is a very small, again very small study of 52 patients. So baseline, there is, these are the beneficial microbes. This green is for you can see bacteroids and lactobacillus, and this dialister. These are increased after acarbose as compared to this green, this blue, and this violet is hazardous microbes which are reduced after acarbose, and this bacteroids and lactobacillus and dialister are increased. Habitual dietary intake affects the altered pattern of gut microbiome by acarbose in patients with type 2 diabetes. Modern lifestyle appears to influence gut microbiome, which may have an important role. This is the study of type 2 naive patients who were on 150 to 300 milligram of acarbose for 1 month, and participants were instructed not to change their eating habits. And conclusion was carbohydrates in lower intestine facilitate gut symbiosis. So this is metagenomic analysis reveals cross-link between gut microbiota and glucose-lowering drugs targeting the GIT in Chinese patients. So microbial changes were likely induced as early as 3 months after this acarbose administration, and you can see that after 3 months of administration of acarbose, there are increase in the friendly microbiome in the gut as compared to hazardous microbiota. So summary points: dysbiosis of gut microbiota is increasingly appreciated and getting popularity. They use polysaccharide substrate as fuel for their growth and conversion into short chain fatty acids, which are beneficial for the host energy metabolism and inflammatory response. Acarbose is the only AGI that allows polysaccharide to enter the large intestine and facilitates production of short chain fatty acids and hydrogen gas, and this also significantly increases the healthy microbiota, that is bifidobacterium longum, lactobacillus, megasphaera and dialister, which I have already told, and also that decrease the inflammatory cytokines. Now coming to the acarbose for cardiovascular benefits. This is acarbose cardiovascular evaluation in impaired glucose tolerance patients, and 5-point MACE were the component: cardiovascular death, non-fatal myocardial infarction, non-fatal stroke, hospitalization for unstable angina, and hospitalization for heart failure. So non-fatal stroke and hospitalization for heart failure were significantly reduced as compared to other parameters, and there is no increase in the cardiovascular morbidity or mortality. So MACE outcome, death from any cause, cardiovascular death and other fatal or non-fatal, statistically they are not significant, but hospitalization for heart failure and non-fatal stroke, numerically they are reduced. The acarbose reduces the risk for myocardial infarction in type 2 diabetic patients. These are the 7 double-blind placebo-controlled studies in more than 2,000 type 2 diabetic patients who were followed up for 1 year. And this is this is Maria study, and you can see there is relative risk reduction in acarbose patients, and 64% in clinical MI and 35% in any cardiovascular event, means unstable angina, heart failure, or any arrhythmia, or acute coronary event. All these are reduced significantly. So there is significantly lower risk with acarbose metformin in hospitalization due to ischemic stroke, atherosclerosis. So this is for 33% relative risk reduction in ischemic stroke. Any atherosclerotic events, means peripheral arterial disease, cardiovascular event or cerebrovascular accident, reduce in combination 31% reduction, and myocardial hospitalization due to myocardial infarction 34%. So almost you can say more than 30% reduction in various cardiovascular morbidity and mortality in patients who were taking sulfonylurea plus metformin, and compared with acarbose metformin, and number is huge, that is 28,000 patients. So this is Beijing Community Diabetes Study, 10-year interval, and effect of acarbose therapy on incidence of cardiovascular events during the 10-year follow-up. And you can see there is again this 5-point MACE was considered, and all-cause death was reduced significantly, almost 11.626% with acarbose therapy, and number is almost 1,500 patients. And myocardial infarction also reduced almost 50%, 3.57 to 1.78%. Rest of the things are not significantly reduced, like cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, and cardiac and cerebrovascular disease. Then inpatient use of metformin and acarbose is associated with reduced mortality of COVID-19 patients with type 2 diabetes. This is retrospective analysis of 131 patients with type 2 diabetes hospitalized with COVID and in Wuhan, and they were taking metformin and metformin with acarbose. So you can see this is metformin alone. The mortality was 5.4. Without metformin, mortality was 22.3%. Acarbose alone, 8.8, and without acarbose, it was significantly high, 24.3. And when metformin acarbose, it is least, almost 5%, as compared to without metformin acarbose, that is almost 30%. So reduced mortality was seen with this metformin acarbose combination patients who were continue to take this. This is retrospective analysis. So means when we analyze the data who were admitted with COVID in Wuhan. These are various guidelines which have also recommended the alpha glucosidase inhibitors in the management of postprandial peaks, glycemic excursion, and to address glycemic variability. So, key take-home message is it is non-hypoglycemic drugs. It reduces A1C up to the tune of 1%, and it all depends on the duration of diabetes, his dietary pattern, mean average glucose excursion, his body mass index, his age, and all these things were considered. And then in all these group of patients, this acarbose helps in reducing the postprandial peak and glycemic excursion. So glycemic variability is a major risk factor for all macrovascular complications, including cardiovascular, cerebrovascular, and peripheral arterial disease. So in nutshell, this is non-hypoglycemic drugs, helps in reducing the glycemic variability and excursion, blunts the peak of postprandial peak of glucose excursion, and helps in improving the healthy gut microbiota without producing hypoglycemia. That is, in 2 lines, the whole gist of this talk is almost over. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for your valuable time and nice elaborated talk regarding this molecule, sir. And sir, for the just if allow, and me to then on behalf of public and for my colleague, I can having a one query regarding this molecule.
Yeah, please.
Sir, if allow. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And sir, another good thing is that sir, you are using since long this